It's a pleasure to have you with us. For our audience, Gaurav is VP of Digital Product Management and Analytics and Operations for Pearson. You joined us, I think, late last year, where we had a panel discussion around digital transformation. That was really in the middle of well, we didn't know it then, but really in the middle of the pandemic, and we talked about kind of future-proofing the business. So it was great to have you along there, and it's fantastic now to dive into the elements of people and culture with you as well here. So a warm welcome and welcome back as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chris, for having me again. Absolutely a pleasure to be here and talk about some of the more pertinent topics that are impacting all of us today.
Yeah, perfect. And Darren, we've obviously heard from you in your presentation what kind of your role and experience is. But just again, for anyone that might just be joining us, if you could perhaps start us off with a quick intro on your role and experience, and also what digital transformation means to you and to the organization you work for there.
Okay. So my name, Darren Powell. I have had a unusual career, to say the least, in different things, but suffice it to say, I've been in multiple corporations and done multiple roles, and lately, right now, I'm working for Bayer, but since I previous to that worked for Boeing and Monsanto as well. So my role and what I'm in today is I'm in a place where I'm helping digital transformation in terms of our strategic roadmaps and how we can actually find ways to implement digital transformation, to understand what the landscape is, to help us actually create a means for success, find the low-hanging fruit, figure out what we need to do, see the innovations and connect them to the opportunities. Those are the sort of things that I handle in my role at Bayer Crop Science in product supply. Nice. So for me, digital transformation is it's such a large term, and it's kind of an amorphous term, right? I think a lot of people, you say digital transformation and it sounds so straightforward, but really to me and what I've discovered, I'm an IT guy and I've come from IT and I do have business in the background, but I did subscribe to the IT type of definition. Digital transformation is the using of the cloud, the leveraging of IoT devices, the using data lakes instead of data marts and all that sort of stuff. It's all about technology. Well, I don't believe that anymore. It's not. It's a business transformation, and if you are an IT professional, then you should actually take that to heart, because honestly, when we look at the things, we create things that are wonderful, we create things that are magical, but if we're not creating what's needed by the business, and if the business itself is not transforming and we're just creating new high-tech gadgets, it's not going to be successful, or it's not going to add value. So that's why I always approach this thing as a business transformation, not an IT transformation.
Nice. That's a nice, thorough answer. And I remember in our earlier conversation, I think it was earlier this week or last week, you said only transform to add value. Don't do it for the sake of new tech. Yeah. So good point there. And then Gaurav, with yourself, if you could give an introduction and also how you look at digital transformation.
Absolutely, Chris. So first of all, as you said, I'm the VP of Digital Product Management, Analytics and Operations at Pearson. Now, for those of you who may not know, Pearson is one of the world's leading digital learning company, about 20,000 employees in 70 plus countries. And we mostly provide learning content, assessments, digital services to millions of learners across the world, educators as well, institutions also, with the goal to equip these learners with the skills that they need to enhance their employability prospects, or just be on a path for continuous learning throughout their lives, and by that process improve their lives, society as well. I'm personally responsible for leading the global e-commerce for Pearson. And prior to this, I spent almost a decade at SAP, where I helped co-found their SAP digital business, which was a B2C focused digital business unit, which was incubated primarily with the vision to enable anyone in the world discover, try, buy, consume SAP and partner products in a completely self-serve manner digitally. So that's a little bit about me. Now, to your question about digital transformation, how I interpret that, what that means to me. I mean, I actually fully concur with what Darin has just mentioned, that it's really about, the business goals, the outcomes that you're looking to drive. And it's fundamentally reimagining the business in the digital age, right? Like it's a foundational change in how an organization delivers value to its customers, partners, and even employees, right? Because it's the whole gamut. And it sort of transcends traditional roles within sales, marketing, or customer support to truly imbibe a radical rethinking of how an organization uses, at the highest level, platform, product, processes, and people effectively in a different way to deliver that business performance. It could be led by a chief digital officer, could be a CIO, could be a customer experience head, or sometimes by the CEO itself, right? Like ultimately it doesn't matter, but what really matters is the core tenets, the guiding principles, right? So one is you need to set up a really bold vision, the North Star, if you will, which should ideally be based on exponential thinking, because what got you here will not get you where you want to be. And then there needs to be a close symbiotic partnership between business and technology to truly drive that change. And then finally, the most important of all is agile execution against it, right? Because you can have a very grand vision, but if your ability to execute lags it significantly, you're never going to, achieve that. So what's most critical there is to fail fast, fail forward, but then quickly repivot and continue to make progress. That's sort of like the mantra that we live by, personally, at least, that I've seen work for the past few years.
Nice, really good answer, and very thorough as well. And I can see Ozge, you've joined us now. Hopefully, you can see me okay. So a warm welcome to you, and thanks very much for joining. I don't know if you picked up on there, but we're just going through the introductions. So and also kind of ascertaining your definition of digital transformation and what it means to you. So Ozge, if you perhaps can just give a quick intro on yourself and let us know what you think of as digital transformation.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be with all of you and the listeners currently. So a quick intro on myself. I am the Executive Director of Strategic Pricing at DRiV. DRiV is the aftermarket part of Tenneco. Tenneco is a $17 billion manufacturer of automotive parts, both for original equipment manufacturers as well as in the aftermarket space. So we work and sell and market our parts globally. We manufacture them globally. So as it relates to my current role, I'm not in the IT org. That said, I work extremely closely with my colleagues in IT to drive digital transformation. In my mind, digital transformation means enabling new routes to market, enabling new use cases for our products, and being able to monetize our products and services in different ways to reach new audiences. At the same time, that same transformation can be applied internally to be able to improve processes and improve cost.
Nice, thank you, and again, welcome. It's great to have you back with us again for this panel session. And perhaps we'll start work our way backwards through your for the next question. And the next question is again, it's around the people element of digital transformation being both the most challenging, but both the most critical as well. And it's clear from discussions today and from previous events that we've run that getting this people and cultural aspect of transformation is integral, and as mentioned, one of the most challenging areas of transformation. Would you agree that kind of the people culture elements is the most difficult part of organizational digital transformation? And that's with you, Ozge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yes, yes. I mean, at the end of the day, again, if we are trying to reach new customers through new routes to market, leveraging technology, you have to touch people internally and externally, your customers, your partners, the way you're delivering your services, it all has to be changed. Now, it also provides tremendous opportunity, as we all know. I mean, we may be just bypassing old traditional channels, routes to market. We may be accruing great margin or monetization opportunities. But net, there is if you're thinking about our customers, it has to be simple, it has to be adoptable. Just because we have new technology or digital technology, if it puts the burden to our customers to do X, Y, or Z task to take advantage, it's not going to work. It's just not going to get adopted, and you go by the wayside. So from that standpoint, it has to be seamless. There has to be a workflow element, meaning it needs to facilitate our customers' life somehow. So I think that's the most critical part from a value proposition standpoint. In terms of the distribution and channels, there has been a huge bonanza with COVID. I mean, I can tell you in my industry, in automotive, we have, first of all, the channel is really converging. We used to have a traditional channel of wholesalers. We still do. We have a retail channel of companies. In the US, it would be like Advanced Auto Parts or O'Reilly. In Europe, there's others. And then these companies still do have web fronts. But at the same time, you have the emergence of the Rock Autos of the world, the Amazon's entry into and sustained operations on automotive parts. But net, especially in the COVID period, it peaked. I mean, that transformation of procuring parts in e-commerce, we're seeing it everywhere. So I think there's parts of it that are enabled through COVID. But at the end of the day, it's all about, again, how do we imagine a completely new future, thinking about changes in behavior, especially if you're talking about our customers. And then finally, if you're talking about internal facets of the digital transformation, absolutely. Currently, I'm leading a program to leverage AI in pricing. So it's been done in many industries, in many ways. I mean, we all have used it in booking our flights and hotel reservations. There's no reason why other industries cannot benefit from similar approaches. It all comes down to the product manager or the pricing team who's going to be taking advantage of that technology. If that set of people are threatened by technology and or somehow don't see the value of the technology, which will be a miss for them, then you get stuck.
No, good answer. And moving to you, Gaurav, on that one.
Yeah, no, so Chris, I couldn't agree more that culture and people are essential to enabling digital transformation. I mean, whether it's a large or a small company, fundamentally it boils down to the culture of the company that leads the way in how it adapts, changes, and rises to meet the new consumer behaviors. A company's culture, if you think about it, is like heavily influenced by its leadership team, right? It's the executive leadership in a company. As the men and women of consequence, they are the ones who set or lead by example for others to follow. But at the same time, culture cannot be built overnight, right? Like a company cannot expect culture to build culture in the middle of a crisis, like what we have been, right, in the past 1 year. So if they didn't have a healthy, vibrant, people-centric culture going into the crisis, you can expect to like successfully wade out of it magically. So while many business leaders think that the starting point of digital transformation is technology, it's essentially really, if you think about it, is the culture that's more foundational. And culture is built by, built off, and built for the people, right? So the companies need to build a people-centric culture with a laser focus on serving the needs of the employees and the customers. And this DNA then becomes foundational to how they effectively can evolve, right? I mean, as they say, trust is built in drops, but lost in buckets, right? So the journey to build that trust with employees and customers is a long one, but certainly worth investing in. And I'm going to use an often used phrase, like we have all heard about it: culture is strategy for breakfast or lunch, right? But so that's true. But at the same time, I just want to end with the fact that it's also very essential to have the right capabilities enabled at the right time, which will allow these organizations to digest the lunch that they have, been served on the platter. So that's in essence, my way of thinking about it.
Nice, I like that. I like that a lot. And Darren, with yourself.
I mean, it's hard to build on what they both said. They basically have hit it. And one of the things that's been a boon and that's really helped, I think, us in an innovation standpoint, is that a lot of times especially when people who are very digitally savvy, perhaps the millennial generation or folks that come in and they're really into the internet, the clouds, and all this other stuff. They know the technologies that they can take advantage of. I think a lot of times they would hit roadblocks because people just simply didn't understand why. What's important about this? What's important for us to be out in the cloud? What's important for us to have our processes where we can do them remotely? We were not a company that did a lot of remote work. And so what I think this has done, honestly, from a culture standpoint, is it's brought a lot of the outliers, the folks who are don't, if it ain't broke, don't fix it or whatever. I think we've brought us together a bit more into a digital mindset and accepting of what this digital transformation truly means on a personal basis, not just on a large scale business or IT. It really, the pandemic and all of the things that we've had to go through, from ordering Rock Auto parts, which I just received yesterday, thank you very much, but also your any pizza or online learning and all of these different things. I think that what that's done is that's actually really done a great service for innovation, because I think we really are getting together more as a culture of innovation based on what our shared experience has been in this past year.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it's one I've heard come up a few times. Of whilst clearly the pandemic is a global disaster and incredibly unfortunate, in terms of silver linings, if you were to look at it that way, and remain a bit more positive in darker times, the approach and the changes to ways of working and organizational behavior and all those kind of things, we see a lot of improvements within that, and it's good to take note of that and to kind of be positive about those as well, because obviously there's a lot of doom and gloom, but focusing on those elements and putting I say a positive spin. It's hard to put a positive spin on obviously what's gone on, but in terms of innovation and things, there has been an accelerated rate of adoption and new ways of thinking, and I think it's going to benefit organizations further down the line for those that can continue that journey.
Yeah, it would be interesting to sit down and have a conversation with the other two panelists, because with myself and Ozge, is that right? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so we manufacture things. So we have plants that create physical objects, right? Or you're right. Your company is a digital company that is producing product to help train folks, right? Is that correct?
That's right.
It'd be interesting. I would love to have a conversation with you to find out what the differences were. How are the impacts? Because it didn't change our manufacturing processes that much. We still had to physically get there. We still physically had to make the stuff. It all came around the ordering, delivering, and all the other components that were around the manufacturing process. So, but for online learning, I can't imagine that there wasn't a huge jump and just a renaissance almost from this sort of thing. So it would be really interesting to understand these differences.
Well, that's
Yeah,
it as
no,
well. I think there's a lot of common challenges to be found from different industries, and you know, cross pollination of ideas is always helpful to you know, compare and contrast even. So it's a good way of looking at it. And I think with regards to our next question around kind of you know, how the pandemic's had an impact on how we work. You've touched on it quite a bit there, Darren, in terms of whether that's had a negative or positive impact on the culture in place. So with that, did you have anything else, Darren, that you might want to add around the new ways of working and negative and positive impacts, or any kind of challenges that have cropped up? You obviously said at the start there that you weren't, you know, ready for the world of remote work in a sense, but you got there in the end. Has that been a challenge? Has that been a journey?
Well, it has been a challenge, and we're in Bayer Crop Science and the seed production pieces. We're a little unique because we're manufacturing living things. Those seeds have to live through the process of actually making them, and they have to be put in the bag so that they'll grow when they get in the ground. There's a living thing inside each one of them. So in the past, that was very much a hands-on process. We have multiple small plants in multiple small cities and such like that across the American Midwest, Europe, Asia, and South America. And so what was the challenge, I think, more for us than anything else was, how do we keep it all working together? Even if, so for example, if Brazil's on a lockdown, right, and Argentina isn't, and all of these, it's just sheer logistics of trying to understand how we can interconnect people in this pandemic was really, I think, the biggest challenge that we had. It was we ended up doing it quite a bit, and leadership was pleasantly surprised at how effective we were at remote learning. We surpassed their or not remote learning, remote working. We surpassed expectation quite a bit there. But really, it was more along the lines of taking a culture that was very, very, very centered on face-to-face, on being there with people, and getting stuff done in that way, and turning digital. But I think that we've come out of it pretty well, and our culture, our company will not be the same.
Yeah,
it absolutely will not be the same from this point forward.
That's good. And then yourself, Gaurav, has positive, negative impacts on the culture at Pearson?
Yeah, no, first and foremost, the global pandemic has required us as leaders to rapidly respond to the ever-evolving macro dynamics, right? And also adapt to the new normal, which did bring with itself a set of critical challenges. Like, first and foremost, most important thing is ensuring the mental, physical, and financial well-being of our teams, right? Everyone has a family or their own self that they need to take care of, which requires flexibility in their schedule. My general philosophy has always been like family first. One needs to take care of, and prioritize their loved ones first and foremost before anything else. So we had to adjust, our meeting schedules, our working hours to afford that flexibility to the employees, to enable them to spend time with their loved ones and also themselves. This in turn positively impacted their mental and physical well-being, and it strengthened the overall team and company culture, and helped create a more engaged workforce. Secondly, providing opportunities for non-task interactions among employees to humanize their engagement, right? Because everyone now was in their remote locations. There was no longer like an office space to talk to, no water cooler conversations happening. So people were missing that sort of emotional connection and bonding. So we provided avenues for that to happen, to build a culture of inclusiveness. And for example, we did dedicated virtual happy hours or hangout sessions, and we played virtual trivia and games with team members just to allow them to interact with each other in an informal setting, because otherwise, it's not 9 to 5 anymore, right? Like, people work like pretty much 24 hours in different, cycles. And then finally, investing in critical competencies that employees need to have to collaborate digitally. I'm talking about the tools and technology to enable remote work, right? We tested different technologies, whether it's Google Meets or Zoom or Microsoft Teams, et cetera, before we settled down on the final tool that actually worked mostly for everyone. And we made sure that people are equipped with the appropriate devices to support them in their daily job. So I mean, tech can play a very critical role in either mitigating or exacerbating the employee pain points. So we had to navigate that very carefully, but thankfully we managed to do a fairly good job with that. And now I think we have fostered a fairly productive workplace, which again in turn provided a big boost to the overall company culture.
Nice, good answer. And then Ozge, with yourself.
So again, we had various positive and negative sort of impacts. On the positive side, actually, the trifecta of the current pandemic of, first and foremost, people having more disposable income due to, or thankfully because of the incentives that are given by the government in the US, and more time in their hands because of the lockdowns, actually is an industry led into and the economic uncertainty, that's the third trifecta, led into a situation where for aftermarket, the used car sales just huge boom of used car sales, like record sales throughout the world and not just in the US. So for us, there was a surge in demand that came along with it. From the day-to-day culture standpoint, I think that the company and its infrastructure was extremely well suited. We switched to, for the majority of non-manufacturing roles, a completely, obviously, remote setting. But at the same time, again, I think all of the challenges around the touch points, the culture, and the element, the water cooler conversations, obviously we struggled and continue to try to find ways to replace it. On the manufacturing side of things, driven by the pandemic and the surge in the workforce that's needed for literally delivery, has been a negative impact. I mean, we are in certain cases struggling as an industry to find hourly workers simply because of the oversurge in demand for those types of jobs. I would say on the salaried and professional jobs, meaning I would say white collar jobs, I would say that the talent pool has been tremendously enlarged. I personally benefited from it because in an environment where you're not bound by physical boundaries, if you're trying to find a data scientist, I mean, in the current setting, I'm very happy to deploy that person anywhere in the US or outside of the US, so long as we have similar working hours in that sort of side of the globe. So from that standpoint, I think it's a very, very positive development. But again, in the manufacturing side and or distribution side, it's been very difficult. And of course, in the most recent supply chain shocks, as an industry, we've been, among many other industries, very negatively impacted because of shipping, transportation, the ships getting stuck in Suez Canal. So there's been a variety of impacts. So
good stuff. And then we've had a question coming from the audience from Kat. Thank you, Kat, for this. Do any of you have any insights on asynchronous meetings and or hybrid environment collaboration? Anyone on that one?
Yeah, so go ahead. Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Gaurav. Okay. You go first.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, I mean, both asynchronous and well, hybrid is starting now. So like asynchronous meetings, kind of like we have adopted a bit of a culture of recording short videos and circulating that with the team. We post it in blogs. I mean, it starts actually all the way from our CEO Andy Bird, who took over as our CEO from Disney last year. He kind of inculcated this culture of like shooting just short bits of video talking about his views on not just the strategic direction and the goals that the company is aspiring for, but also paying attention to the day-to-day reality, right? Like how keeping a pulse on the employees' feelings and sentiments and like their needs, right? And then people can post questions to his blog, his video blog, and then he answers. Like it takes time to answer each and every question, and then that sort of percolates down to his exec leadership team and then further down. So I think that has helped quite a bit in driving engagement. And now that we are slowly getting to the phase where we are thinking about reopening offices, we are taking the time to actually redo our workspaces to give employees the option of whether they want to come back to full normal, meaning like fully in the office, or they want to continue to work remote, or they want to choose a hybrid option. So the company is taking, investing time and resources in redoing the workspaces to support all type of models. So yeah, that's a little bit about how Pearson is handling this.
No, that's a good answer. And Ozge, you had something to add there as well.
Yes, very similar approaches, I would say. I think it was a really good answer. What I would also say is that we've had more collaboration across geographies. So at the same time, I mean, we were already on the Teams platform. So a lot of collaboration also. Teams has really great functionality in terms of being able to collaborate on documents. So I have seen more collaboration across geographies and digitally in this period.
Nice. And then Darren?
Yeah, I agree with her entirely. It looks like the biggest bite was the fact that now people are using the collaboration software far more extensively than they were before. As a matter of fact, it's something that we actually go into when we start doing the PRA assessments and such, as I spoke in my piece, is that we talk about how much they're using these collaborative softwares. As far as asynchronous meetings, I haven't been in one. I have no idea. We don't really tend to send videos back and forth, so we might be a bit of a lagger there. But the virtual meetings are stellar. Everybody likes them, but there's also this. I want to say there's a bit of a traditionalist vein through the company, and I don't know. I don't believe that we will ever be 100% virtual, but I believe the hybrid is most likely in our future. The indications have been such because honestly, from a completely dollars and cents standpoint, a virtual is actually less expensive than putting people in the suite and paying all the information. It just depends, I think, on what the decision is at the end of the day. And honestly, we're not really in on those discussions. But I believe it's going to be a hybrid approach.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be doing my job from Tahiti, but I don't think that's going to be in my future.
And I think with that as well, leads us quite nicely onto the next question, which is about how can leaders continue to communicate transformation goals. And I say that because we've obviously pre-pandemic we were working in that current normal of which we didn't realize we needed to change or adapt or anything. So things were going well in terms of leadership, in terms of communication. And obviously the pandemic hit. We're all working remote. We're locked down. There's a struggle in terms of organizations putting together collaboration tools and whatnot. And as we've kind of evolved through the pandemic, we've been in and out of lockdown. Certainly over here in the UK and Europe, it's kind of been stop, start, stop, start. And I believe it's a bit different in the US, wherever you're based, depending on state and whatnot. And with that, we're now returning to what we're predicting will be a hybrid model, but again, we're unsure. It's all a bit uncertain. And so, we struggle to strategize when it's so uncertain and we don't actually fully know what the future might hold. So how difficult is it for leaders like yourselves to be communicating transformation goals to teams, and how critical is that going to be as we move over the next few months as we enter a new phase of hybrid, if that's what's going to happen? And Gaurav, perhaps we can start with you on that one.
Yeah, sure, Chris. So I think having clear and inspiring communication is very critical to making the workforce truly believe in their collective future. So, a few core guiding principles that I think enable effective communication at a high level are, first and foremost, do some research, gather some data, like, for example, based on employee pulse surveys, right? Ask them what they prefer, which is what was done here at Pearson to get employee feedback throughout last year, this year. to inform this strategy of whether people prefer to come back to the office or hybrid or fully remote, right? That's what was baked into the company's decision to offer all three options. Second is we need to have, as leaders, a strong moral compass and empathy in decision making. We need to be sensitive to the employee needs to cultivate open and compassionate environment and conversations, because this has become like the need of the hour with so much tragedy that has happened on multiple dimensions, right? Whether it's the COVID pandemic or whether it's the racial injustice and the likes of the last 1.5 years. Secondly, build a high sensitivity to risk, especially about health issues of the employees and family members. I mean, we have starting to pay a lot of attention to that, and that is central part of all of our communications to our employees, either one-on-one or in team meetings. And then build a very high level of strong level of conscientiousness to build a resilient work environment by demonstrating a common sense of purpose, right? Because it's not something that we are doing in a rash, to address the situation here and now, but this needs to be a sustainable decision to foster that collaboration moving forward as well. So, that's sort of like at a strategic level, some of the guiding principles that we tend to live and die by. But tactically, I've also learned that, some of these objectives and goals need to be shared and reiterated multiple times in different forums with the employees to ensure that they're really heard, well understood, and then acted upon, right? So this could span the gamut, like virtual team meetings or one-on-ones or these video, posts that I was talking about in blogs, emails, chats, like all these different forums, we have used to really drive the point home about all of these communications to the employees.
Nice, good answer, and I'm with you on that one, Ozge.
So again, very similar teams here. I think I'm very proud of Tenneco and Tenneco's leadership. To Gaurav's point, I mean, we still are an industry that had to continue to work throughout the pandemic, because obviously spare parts or repair parts are integral to emergency teams getting to where they need to get to, police, healthcare workers, and so on. So and throughout this period, we lost and we continue to lose, especially in Latin America and parts of the world that are still harder hit by the pandemic, team members every day. Because again, we have physical manufacturing across the world, across many countries. It's a very tough environment. I'm extremely proud of the leadership. In all of the leadership meetings, we go with people first, people updates. When we lose team members, the way that the team has been treated, their families have been treated, this is a big and important part of the culture. If people don't feel taken care of, they're not going to be in the mind state to work. From that standpoint, again, both from a racial justice standpoint, I'm extremely proud of the company. We now have in the aftermarket parts, again, it's very hard to find great female leaders, especially in sales and marketing. We have 3 regions of the world, 2 are led by women. And again, we're in the manufacturing industry. So I feel very proud for the advancements that the company has made. That said, I think to survive, not just us, many companies had to really, you cannot sit back when your demand is falling double digits and then coming back in double digits. It's kind of like a roller coaster. Unless you adapt, you're not going to be able to change. And I think from that standpoint, the leadership of Tenneco, as well as many other companies, I think are aware that with the recent changes on family, on childcare, and to a certain extent, people relocating in the pandemic, the thought of 100% going back to the office is not realistic. People are going to quit. And this is happening already. So there's going to be probably different segments of the workforce that are going to be reacting differently. So I think this is real. The flexibility, what I see in my company, that flexibility is there depending on the demands of the job. And from a workforce standpoint, again, we all had to go through a lot of flexibility lately. So I think from that standpoint, that attitude transforms over to digital transformation. So I think that it's been a very hard year, but from the standpoint of building those flexibility muscles, we all individually and collectively as companies had to work on it.
Definitely, good answer there. And Darren, with yourself on that one.
Well, and building on both those excellent statements there. I think what Bayer did is Bayer concentrated on trying to make sure that the employees knew that we were important, that what we need to, Bayer's a pharmaceutical company, and so as a pharmaceutical company, so things like the science around things, they explained about how things are, and all these sort of things, encouraging people to be safe, not pressuring anybody to do more work or what have you, and all these different things. And I think that a lot of what we've said before here, I would just be reiterating, but what we really are looking at moving in the future, I think, is the idea of retention. Because we really need to understand, and this is something that's been boiling for a while in prior companies I'd been in. They didn't really understand that an attitude of one generation was you work for the company and you stay at the same company for the entirety of your work, and you're done. You're loyal to the company. And then in an entirely different generation, it's like a company can let me go at any moment. I don't owe the company, and what does the company do for me? And those are the kind of things that I think now are getting a lot more scrutiny in terms of where can we find the sweet spot where we can keep our people that we have, and also we can competitively compete for people that we need. You look in fields like in analytics and data science, and people are really kind of primo right there in terms of what you can offer them, and you really need to kind of jump pretty high to get top talent. And I believe that's what we're looking for here. Is we gotta find that level where people are happy, people are productive, and we're able to keep them safe and happy enough that they'll stay.
Yeah, no, well, good points. And I've often throughout this event series over the last few months, and even before that actually, heard a lot about organizations having a North Star in place when it comes to digital transformation. And I just kind of want to ask you individually whether you have that kind of thing in place, whether you have a North Star, and how that works, and perhaps start with you on that one, Ozge.
I mean, for me, individually and professionally, this is not a choice, meaning digital transformation is already occurring. For me, it's a motto where either go along with it or be left behind. So, and interestingly, where I have been professionally, it is a congruence in pricing. Again, the AI-based models, software, dynamic pricing. I mean, you cannot be in the world of pricing today if you don't know some type of computer science / software. It's a key ingredient, and it's going to be more and more in the future. Yeah. So again, for me, it's either you get ahead of it or you fall behind professionally and personally. So that's my motto. Hopefully that's not too harsh.
No, that's good. And Gaurav, that North Star for you or Pearson?
Yeah, so, as I was saying in my intro, Pearson is one of the leading global digital learning companies. So our overall true North Star continues to be that we want to enable learning for life for millions of people around the world by building a direct-to-consumer relationship with them across their lifetime of learning. And our purpose is really to help them achieve their full potential through learning, which will ultimately result in enabling their lives better, improving the society, and then delivering better learning experiences. So where digital transformation comes into play is to really help us drive this or achieve this goal, is that we aspire to create digital first, accessible and sustainable learning products, because ultimately that's what the customers need. And when we say digital first, what I really mean is like really aspiring for a full end-to-end digital experience, all the way from discovery to trial to purchase to consumption and support.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where the 4 dimensions that I was talking about earlier, platform, product, policy, or process, people, right, that comes into play truly in imbibing the holistic digital transformation experience for what we want to achieve.
Nice, thank you, Gaurav, and yourself with that one, Darren.
Yeah, and the term North Stars are fairly popular around Bayer right now, and so we do have North Stars in place for digital transformation for different things. And in my previous presentation, you saw that there were North Stars in terms of
Cultural.
Information technical. So when I hear that term North Star, the first thing that I usually challenge people with is a North Star doesn't do you any good if you're below the equator. So you first, before you create those sort of things, you need to know where you are. You need to understand your company, where it is today, and what you're capable of, and what before you start to really generate those sort of North Stars. Because too often, we set goals that we're just not prepared to even begin to try to get to. And so that's been my philosophy.
Nice, three nice rounded approaches there to that. And then finally, just kind of want to dig a little deeper into digital transformation priorities to finish off with. And Darren, I'll start with you again on this one, and we'll work our way back through. And just with the question of what are your priorities over the next 6 months when it comes to digital transformation? What's kind of not the end goal? We all know digital transformation is completely ongoing, so it's not saying what's your end goal, but what's going to be kind of the priorities as we move hopefully out and beyond of the pandemic.
Well, our priorities in digital manufacturing and such like that is to complete all of our assessments, completely understand everything. We're putting in together roadmaps in order to really start to see where we're possible to go, where the need really is. And that's one of the things, and I'm glad you alluded to that. The whole philosophy that we've put into place here on this is that we only need to transform as much as it makes value sense. Because there's too many times transformation pieces get put in without a real value statement, without a real understanding of how does this help the company. Mm-hmm. And so bringing that sort of understanding of where we are and such is helping us to create those roadmaps. And honestly, 6 months in a corporation the size of the one I work on is a blink in the eye, as a blink of an eye. And so really we're looking at having the roadmaps in place, understanding our challenges, the challenges for a lot of people, the transportation costs, for example, right now, the idea of what we need to do in order to save money, resources, and all this other stuff. And again, it's still the ongoing pandemic. So basically, I think in the next 6 months, what we really want more than anything is to fully understand where we are and to have roadmaps at least begin to be in place for us to be able to actually execute and move forward in the digital transformation's future.
Sure, really good answer. Thanks for that, Darren. And back to you, Ozge, with that final question.
Right. Very similar teams. We have for the last year been doing the mapping of the as-is status. There's various digital applications in manufacturing. My comments are specifically for my area of work, which is pricing, which is under sales and marketing, of course. So we have a good understanding or an appreciation of where we are. The challenge that's in front of us and the priority is, again, going back to the people or culture question, having the right talent, having the right processes. And there, again, there's the notion of cleaning house before going to the next set of optimized and software enabled processes, that is a big part. So, and in my mind, that's either going to make or break a digital transformation effort. Because again, if you're going into a mindset where we're automatizing or putting under software the current complexity, that doesn't do anybody any good. This is where transformation projects blow out of scope. You get a lot of customization creeping in, which most of the time means more risk and more money, and eventually the program becomes unmanageable. So I think from that standpoint, I think we have a lot of work to do still to really distill, to Darren's point, the value, the specific value of the effort, and really stay focused on it and sort of bring it home.
Nice, really good answer. Thank you. And finally, Gaurav, you on that one.
Yeah, so Chris, for the next 6 to 12 months, I would say our main priorities and efforts are primarily focused on building a truly best-in-class direct-to-consumer business with a consumer-grade customer experience for our learners, because that's what we have heard from the customers that they need, and it has been further accelerated by this spurt of digital transformation that the pandemic has thrust upon us. This will require us to really innovate and bring to bear new digital native products, which are born with the digital DNA and supported by new digital commercial models as well to monetize those products and serve the ever-growing learning needs of our audience in an increasingly virtual environment. Because, I mean, learning, as we have all seen, whether it's in K-12 or higher ed or even professional people like you and I, it has radically moved and is moving even now towards a more virtual environment. And when you're virtual, it's more DIY, self-serve, and hence it's extremely important to enable that digital DNA. Again, to my earlier point, not just in the product that you're consuming, but your end-to-end journey, the way you find it, the way you buy it, the way you try it and then use it, and then how you get support as well, and then how you funnel in your feedback back to us to inform our roadmaps to make it even better. So that's sort of our obviously North Star, as I shared earlier, but then there are incremental milestones that we are shooting for to get to that over the course of next 6 to 12 months.
Nice. Well, I'd like to thank all of you for joining and for a really informative session there. It's always nice to bring together different individuals from different organizations, different industries. And Darren, I think you alluded to it. It's nice to discuss those common challenges and come together and think about things in a more holistic manner. So really good answers there, and I appreciate all of your time. It's great to have you with us. Darren, thanks for your presentation before it and for joining the event. And Gaurav and Ozge, obviously we've had you speak before on the event series, Ozge, both in person, believe it or not, when that was once a thing, and of course online late last year as well. And Gaurav, you've joined us. This is the second panel, so really do appreciate it. Some great thinking there, and really do appreciate it. And it's great to have you with us, and all the best as we kind of, as I've said many times, hopefully moving away from the pandemic and getting back to at least some kind of normality as well. So it'd be interesting to catch up with all of you again in however long's time, and to maybe discuss a few things and whatnot. But real pleasure to have you with us, and I do appreciate it. Thank you so much.